Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time in 2025. It is time to complete and finish this year's season, this year's championship. We have the last broadcast for you on Sunday afternoon. It is the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe race number 3. Cars already making their way to the starting grid for the final time in 2025, and we have the last 25 minutes of racing action ahead of us. It's been an eventful couple of races already so far, but we have Bastian Frischmann on pole position, the Austrian driver. Look at that, followed by all Hungarian flags imaginable here at Balaton Park. So it's going to be a difficult afternoon for him. However, he can gain out of that a first victory of the weekend. We have got on the grid right alongside him Benjamin Nať, row number 2, that is Balázs Hartmann, who won race number 1 yesterday, and then Egon Burkus in 4th, Ester Nemet in 5th from Adam Mesáros, and István Bernula Zsombor Pinter, who won race number 2 earlier on today in the morning. He sits 8th on the grid in front of Balázs György. The second class of the naturally aspirated 1.6 cars, again led by Richard Král, who started from pole position earlier on today, but did not exploit that advantage perfectly. Alongside him, it's Ferenc Hartmann, Armin Törő, and Dobroslav Kárnyík on row 2. Then András Bilko, Zoltán Csuti, and Daniel Nemes completing the grid here in Hungary. Last checks, last preparations, last words from the team members before the cars will be abandoned on the grid, and it will just be men and machines. Actually, women and machines, needs to be said. Getting ready for their last racing action of the season. 4,114 meters, that is the length of the circuit, one of the shorter on the calendar, of course, but that does not mean that it is short on racing action, as we've seen a couple of times this weekend already. The wind has picked up, you may hear it in the ambient mics. It's rather overcast, so getting quite cold, 18 degrees centigrade, which is similar to what we had yesterday. However, since the sun is not out anymore, it definitely feels like a lot less than that. We've got 2 class, 1.4 turbo, 920 kilograms, and then the 1.6 naturally aspirated, the previous model of the Suzuki Swift, actually the older model, not even the 1.4 turbo, is now the latest one, however still in use, and the 1.6 naturally aspirated, the cars are 10 kilograms heavier and also a couple of seconds per lap slower than that, but still in good use, and still a great car to enjoy yourself. Really just a couple of €1,000 per weekend, and you can have all this fun for yourself. 3 free practices, really I've said that, a quali, and then a trio of races, which really makes it a good value if you simply want to try your hand at motorsport and dip your toes in the motorsport pond for the first time ever, and looking for a set of wheels that's not going to cost you a fortune. And we are off to the formation lap. Slight delay in program, of course, because we have had a couple of red flags earlier on in the TCR race, and also lastly in the GT sprint, which was then ended prematurely thanks to an incident towards the end, just over a minute from the end, and then the GT sprint was actually ended up and shortened slightly. But we've got the cars on the track, and the 25 minutes awaiting them either way. And in order not to waste any more time, the race number 3 will actually be started behind the safety car, which is of course where you saw the pace car on the track, and there's quite a lot of dust on the track in this corner. This is where Bob Bow retired from the GT Sprint earlier on in his Porsche 911, and you could see how much oil needed to be treated, how much the track surface needed to be treated because of the big spill, and that means that the surface is rather slippery in that section, and that is also why the race control simply decided that they are going to start the race behind the safety car just to give it a little more caution, also have the pace car drive around for a bit and simply taste the conditions together with the racing drivers. The pace car is leading the pack, and it should now switch the lights off. Not quite yet. The time is already running, which means that basically we've already started, and in the rather uneventful beginning of the race, it is Bastian Frischmann, of course, holding on to the first place since no overtaking is currently allowed. Let's see if the safety car gets back to the pits or not. Not yet. So we keep on circulating behind the safety car onto another one, and we simply have to evaluate the grip levels at the critical spot where the incident occurred just a couple of tens of minutes back. So it is Frischmann from Benjamin Nať, Balázs Hartmann in third from Egon Burkuš, Ester Nemet, Adam Mesáros, István Bernula, Zsombor Pinter and Balázs György. That's the 1.4 turbo class, and this is the other one. Already rather not keeping up with the rest of the pack, which they should be, however, in safety car conditions. So it is Král, Hartmann, Törö, Kárnyík, Bilko, Csuti and Nemes. So this is the critical spot, one of the hardest braking points on the track. We have to clear the track a little bit more from the powder that's used to treat the oil spills, and because the grip level is not really very good, we have the safety car conditions also to give the drivers a little bit more reconnaissance with the track itself. Hopefully at the end of this lap we can be going. Released under green flag conditions. I don't see any more news from race control, so let's just wait to see what happens. So safety car in this lap, as we expected. The lights are off now, and we will be released into full green conditions with about 20 minutes left on the clock. And there we go, Bastian Frischmann taking the rest of the pack to the start and finish straight. So we will get in the end some 20 minutes of racing. There we go, we're underway, and the race has begun with Frischmann leading, Nať having a little bit of a gap but really going aggressive into the first corner, opening the door for Balázs Hartmann, who's already racy. Not quite managed to get ahead down the inside, so had to stick with outside line into the second corner. And around we go again. Frischmann still in the lead from Nať and Hartmann. Burkuš already losing a little ground, and Frischmann in trouble, exiting the left-hander at the end of the first sector, dropping wheels onto the gravel, which means that Nať is now going to lead. Balázs Hartmann also pushing himself into second. What is Frischmann going to do? There is not a lot of grip in the right-hander, however he manages to stick it side by side with Hartmann. So they are fighting for second. This is good news for Nať, who's leading and also getting away a little bit. Big mistake by Frischmann. at the end of the first sector. He's now under huge pressure from Balázs Hartmann, but manages to stay in second at least. Then it is Burkus. Eszter Nemet in trouble. She's been overtaken by Adam Mészáros. And under pressure from earlier race winner Zsombor Pinter. And also the championship leader István Bernula. Also Balázs György trying to stay close together with the rest of the pack. Didn't really manage to do so in race number 2. Gonna try and do it again in race number 3. He's already dropping down a little bit. There they go through the chicane to complete what is virtually the first lap of the race. Of course, technically it's already lap number 3, but we spent the first 2 behind the safety car, so no changes in the order were possible. Hard under braking, we go into the first corner, really windy at this time. Adam Mészáros pulling a move on Hartmann, who didn't manage to get ahead of Frischmann, and he's now paying for it. But now he's got the inside line, still side by side with Mészáros. How about the next 2 left-handers? They should favor Hartmann. Hartmann coming back into third. Mészáros didn't really want to give up and still doesn't. Is he going to end up in the gravel? No, he actually ends up side by side with Hartmann. So Hartmann being a gentleman, sorry, not Hartmann but Burkus being a gentleman, which he now may pay the price for. It is Pinter sending it down the inside on Eszter Nemet. She's dropping down to István Bernula, closer to her championship rival. The situation between them already sorted, with the championship glory going to the to István Bernula. Pinter trying to launch yet another attack on Burkus. Now he might be successful down the inside, and that is now dealt with just as István Bernula overtakes Eszter Nemet, and we've got a couple of cars off the track. Is it starting to rain? I'm wondering, because 3 cars off the track in one corner, and would you just look at the tiny little spray coming off the tires of all cars. We've got yet more hits, and it is Nagy punching his way through on Hartmann. There we go. No signs of umbrella being used, so probably no rain, although a little rain was actually expected today. This is Zsombor Pinter in a huge fight with Adam Mészáros. Ooh, and this is another big one. Adam Mészáros skipping through the gravel trap after a big fight with Pinter. This is going to drop him all the way down to the back of the pack. Yesterday's pole sitter, now last in his class. And today's pole sitter, Bastian Frischmann, in third, behind Hartmann and Nagy. Nagy leading. There they go, Balázs Hartmann in with a shout of a second victory of 3 races this weekend. That would be a good way to top the season off. And it's Frischmann, then it is Zsombor Pinter in 5th, but he's already behind István Bernula, this year's champion. Eszter Nemet getting ahead. It kind of looks dusty or sort of wet at this part of the track. It's a little bit weird. Maybe simply the wind that has picked up is now bringing a little more dust and dirt on the track, reducing the grip levels. The car's losing bits and pieces here and there, but it is still Nagy leading in that chalked up blackboard style livery. Benjamin Nagy holding the fastest lap of the race so far in 2:0.670. On the previous lap he was just 0.4 of a second slower than his overall best. And it's only the first two cars lapping in under 2 minutes 1 second. The only other one was Esther Nemet on the previous lap, setting her personal best at 2:00.681, very close to the fastest lap of the race for the Hungarian driver. Car number 544 leading the 1.6 class, that is Zoltán Csuty from Dobroslav Kárnyík, András Bilko in third, from Daniel Nemes, Armin Töre, Ferenc Hartmann and Richard Král struggling for pace in this race as well. Each race we're reversing the top 8 order if we have 8 cars to start with. Well, let's say after each race we're rotating the top 8 for the start of the next race, which means that 2 pole positions for Richard Král. However, he's already dropped all the way down at the back of the pack. Benjamin Nagy, however, still leading as we're watching the other black car of Zsombor Pinter trying to follow István Bernula. There is the race leader, Daniel Nagy, just as we've ticked over into the second half of the race. Completing lap number 6 right now. 4th under green conditions. One of the bollards taken a fatal hit and now rolling over the track. Still no change between the first two. Benjamin Nagy managing his pace really well and actually managing his line really well. István Bernula trying to have a look down the inside on Frischmann. There they are. Bernula making a move and climbing up to third. And it's also Pinter now trying to have a go on Frischmann. They are now side by side. Pinter having a little better exit and better pace, although he had to take the outside line into the quick left-hander, and still Pinter gaining 1 place. Race leaders still in the same formation, trying to run for it, and Balázs Hartmann simply having to stay together with Nagy, waiting for his chance to pounce. There it may present itself, as Hartmann had a little better, tiny little better exit out of the hairpin. And we go hard under braking yet again into the final sector. Hazard lights coming on both Swifts as they really try to brake as hard as they possibly can. Go-karting through the final corners. Nagy going sideways all the time, which is not really helping his tempo. He's now having to choose the defensive line. Hartmann using the outside into the first corner. He can go aggressive under braking, but still unable to get ahead. He was now trying to make a surprising switchback, which Daniel Nagy spotted in the last second and stayed glued to the inside line, which then caused a slight touch and a little slide for Hartmann, but they both keep continuing. There's Richard Král about to be lapped with 9 minutes left on the clock. And this is not exactly the lead of the 1.6 class. However, it's a 3-way fight with a contact. Up ahead in the silver car is Zoltán Csuty, already leading by 3 seconds. Then we've got Dobroslav Kárník under huge pressure from András Bilko and Daniel Nemes. And they had a rather rough going through the first corner. Another bollard ending up in the gravel trap in the back chicane. Nudge still somehow leading. He's only going to have to do that for 8 more minutes. And he could be a final race winner of 2025. But it's not going to be a walk in the park for him just yet. Zsombor Pinter under pressure from István Bernula in the fight for third. The remaining podium spot, as the race leader already seemed to be really far away, 3 seconds away from the rest of the pack, which does not necessarily mean that they will have to stay there. Zsombor Pinter, the first one, dropping the lap times under 2 minutes on the previous tour, 1:59.869. And him and Bernula lapping faster than the race leaders. So the gap now drops to 2.7 seconds. Not really sure whether that's going to be enough. Ester Nemet launching an attack on Bastian Frischmann, unsuccessfully for now. Then it is Mesaros and Burkush. György again already rather in arrears. Zoltán Chutin in the meantime leading the 1.6 class from car number 503, which is Dobroslav Kárník. But this is another fight for the race lead. Balázs Hartmann trying to come up with something, but unable to do so. There is Pinter, earlier race winner, and also István Bernula, victorious in the championship, but not scoring a single victory this weekend just yet. And from fourth, it's hardly going to change. However, never say never, as really the second duo gradually getting closer and closer to the race leaders. There is Ester Nemet having another go on Bastian Frischmann. They will now be going side by side, exiting the back hairpin. Adam Mesaros in his predominantly silver car also trying to get into the mix. He's now launching an attack on Ester Nemet. Under braking into the chicane side by side. And Adam Mesaros pulls this move successfully. To have Bastian Frischmann in front. Careful not to drop the outside wheels into the gravel. Entering the final S's. That would potentially send the car spinning. Ooh, a nudge under pressure. He left the door open, invited Balázs Hartmann in. But again, Hartmann unable to get ahead, as the following 3 corners are now favouring the line of Benjamin Nagy. Benjamin Nagy really fighting hard for it, and their gap being reeled into by Pinter and Bernula. Just 2 seconds for Pinter. So very soon Pinter will be there together with Nagy and Hartmann. So it's still not decided, and it's not just a 2-horse fight, 2-horse race. It could still end up being a 4-way battle for the final race victory for the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe. Last 5 minutes. And there we go. This is already becoming a compact top 4 group. Behind them, Frischmann from Mesaros, Ester Nemet in 7th from Egon Burkush. And into the first corner we go with Mesaros trying to launch an attack, however unsuccessfully. Just over 3 minutes left. Pinter 1.2 seconds behind the race leader. They are really close to one another right now. Mesaros again diving down the inside, taking that spot off the hands of Bastian Frischmann. And Jombor Pinter trying to support his fight for the race victory. The late chance, and he supports it with a fastest lap of the race on the previous round, 1:59.696. István Bernula using the toe to get 1:59.785 and being the second driver today, dropping under 2 minutes in this race. And now they are all together, but it's not going to be easy. And we are about to commence the final lap of the race. We're getting close to the 2 minute mark. There it is. We still have got the last couple of corners to negotiate. Balázs Hartmann sending it down the inside, and he is now the new race leader. 1 lap down, 1 lap from home. Balázs Hartmann leads the way from Benjamin Nagy. Jombor Pinter also wants to get himself into the mix. He's slipstreaming past the other two. He's gonna go hard under braking. Nagy nearly making a contact with Hartmann. And Jombor Pinter already attacking. He's using the outside line just to be on the inside for the second corner. There's touch. Nagy sent spinning, cleared away. Jombor Pinter simply pushes Benjamin Nagy out of the way in his late attempt to win this one. István Bernula, this year's champion, also launching a fight with Benjamin Nagy, and Nagy goes from the race lead, which he held for the entire race, down to third. And even there is a possibility that he might end up off the podium altogether. It's still Hartmann, the race 1 winner, leading us now. But Jombor Pinter, race 2 winner, emerging as the late rival for today's victory. So who's it going to be? Who's going to take the last chance? Pinter launching an attack into the left-hander. That may have not been the best of moves, because it is now causing a rather bad exit onto the final stretch. But Pinter is close. It would have to be an unbelievable dive bomb. But is he going to do that? No, he isn't. He's too far back. I believe that he may have simply overdone it in the previous hairpin. But nevertheless, it was a great fight anyway. And Balázs Hartmann, who opened this weekend with a victory, will close this season with a victory. Balázs Hartmann exits the final corner and wins the final race of the Suzuki Swift Cup Europe in 2025. Right in front of Jombor Pinter, who launched a great action in today's race, coming from 8th on the grid to 0.2 of a second from a victory. A long-time race leader, Benjamin Nagy, finishing 3rd on the road, just ahead of this year's champion, István Bernula. Adam Mesaros in 5th, Bastian Frischmann, today's pole sitter, in 6th, from Ester Nemet, Egon Burkuš and Balázs György. And this is the finale of the 1.6 class with car number 544, driven by Zoltán Csuti. Coming to pick up his glory. Zoltán Csuti wins again in the 1.6 class from Dobroslav Kárník. András Bilko in 3rd from Daniel Nemes. And then it will be Armin Töre, Ferenc Hartmann and Richard Kral completing the order. So it was again a rather eventful, exciting race to top the season off. So we're happy to finish it with a thrilling one. But it is Balázs Hartmann signing off the season with a victory. And finally also Richard Kral finishing in 16th. And even though behind him physically, but ahead of him in the order, Ferenc Hartmann. So that is it for 2025. We will still show you the graphic results in a moment. But in the meantime, we have got the race winners. Balázs Hartmann, Zsombor Pinter and Benjamin Nagy. And with these results, we are going to say goodbye not only to Balaton Park, not only to this weekend, but also to the entire 2025 season. It's been a pleasure, and we will come back for more with known circuits, known names, but also some new ones. And we can already start looking forward to 2026, which should begin already in April. Stay tuned, all will be revealed before too long. And right now we thank you very much for being with us, watching all the races live together with us. Thank you so much, and before too long it is a very warm goodbye.